Everybody, this is Ripples in Wales, back for another video, and today we're going to have a look at 589, Swift, the level playing field, and how this all connects back to BG's work in the Christmas scene, the first part of the Christmas scene. This is an incredibly complex topic, one that's taken me 3 years to really bed down as a knowledge graph in my own head, and yeah, there's many moving parts to this. Anyhow, without further ado, let's have a bit of a dive right in. Alright, this is the thank you very much for all the 250 almost subscribers already the past few days. It's amazing, and yeah, looking forward to growing the channel a little bit and providing you guys with incredible value in terms of at least my knowledge on BG's work and Ripple and the XRPL environment as we go. So this is my Twitter profile. Give us a follow and get in touch with us on there. I'm pretty active on that. So 589, Swift, the level playing field. Where did it all begin? Well, we always start with BG's Twitter profiles. This is where everything is. This is where the links to all of his work is. And so much knowledge is locked up in these two Twitter profiles. I keep bringing you back to these because there's links for everything in there. I always use his forward-facing links because some of the Lodestar links are corrupt. BG, if you're listening out there, the Lodestar link on this Lodestar 1 doesn't work. You need to fix it. Anyhow, we're going to go straight into his Reddit profile, which I clicked earlier on, and it brought me into here. And this is BG's own Reddit post section, and I've orientated it in chronological order. And I want to bring you straight away down to the United Nations post back in, I think it's 2018, which if you click this, it brings it up in this. And this starts us on this 589 journey, and it links into Lodestar 1. And everyone, straight away jumps on the bandwagon as price, it's got to be price. It's not price. If you want it to be price, it can be price. It's cool, but I can tell you now, it's way bigger than price. And if it goes to that price, brilliant. We're all happy. But it was way more sophisticated than that. So let's first look at the colours. This image was released by BG, and we're not going to focus too much on it. It's in the past. It's the United Nations building in the US. Remember, the UN was on the stick man that was cut loose. Yeah, one of the corporations with it that was maybe controlled by part of the old guard had been set loose and set free. Malta's got the Ripple flag on it, and you've got 589 with a dollar sign on the plus either side of it, and the end of year 2018. So important to pay attention to these colours. You've got a blue background, red end of year 2018, a green 589 with a dollar and a plus, a yellow square and a purple square around the yellow square, all on a blue background. Okay, remember BG uses colours. He always uses colours. So the purples and yellows have significance in the other riddles, don't they? This predated the Christmas castle riddle. So in those, purple we know is XRP, and yellow is the dollar. But there also are shifting meanings as to these colours in the early ones, and he gives you the clues and the keys to what's what. If we move to this famous picture, excuse me, in the Christmas scene, he's got Cobalt, Nostro, okay, and Cobalt is XRPL. It's XRPL software. Nostro is red. Pay attention to the colours, super important. Nostro is red. Liquidity is green. Comex is yellow. Right, first and foremost, let's have a look at these. I think I've got some other tweets at the back of there that I posted a while ago. Oh, I don't want to resave the name of that. Okay, so just as that, we've got Nostro, Cobalt, Liquidity, Comex. Now, liquidity. It's important for me to kind of bring you understanding as to what these four corners of or these four colours and four names are in the grand scheme of things. They are components of Swift. Okay, they are all components in the grand scheme of things. The COMEX isn't essentially, but the COMEX maybe will be in the future. The COMEX is Rule 589. But if we're looking at Swift, there's a couple of components to Swift. One is messaging, and the other is liquidity. And the other is pre-funding Nostro accounts. They all need to be kind of changed, reevaluated, and replaced in order for us to move down the far line of having a level playing field. So we've got liquidity green, we've got COMEX yellow, we've got Cobalt, you can either have it as blue or yellow or purple, okay, and Nostro's is red. Super important to bank that, and we'll kind of go into understanding what is the liquidity and what is the Nostro, and how does that tie into Swift as proper, and how RippleNet and ODL can go on to replacing some of those. But firstly, the 589 started here, and you can see that it's got the same symbols, yeah. So the dollar, the green dollar sign, yeah, and you've got the plus. You can see it's carried through. Okay, liquidity is also green, so the liquidity is in dollars for Swift, right? Okay, so in Swift, you've got to separate it into two parts. Swift is a messaging service by a company in Belgium, right? Its HQ is in Belgium. It's a telecoms company. It's a messaging company. And its job is to send messages of, I guess, money transactions that are going around the planet. Okay, but they also have to have a liquidity provision, and those liquidity is taken, is taken care of by a number of banks. Let's put them as JPM, Citi, HSBC, and I think there's a couple more as well. It might be Chase. So those guys provide the liquidity for those messages that Swift is sending. Swift doesn't send money, it's just a telecoms company, right? And Ripple's job is to replace Swift. We know that was always the way. It's always been the major goal. And I'll try and explain why to you. But it's important for us to go back to these first two pictures of where 589 originated. They originated in this scene, which I've showed you, was linked to Bearable Guy's own Reddit channel, and then it pops up in the Christmas scene here on the lesson on the whiteboard. If you don't know where this comes from, I think it's this one here. So you've got the bear teaching a lesson, and it's to do with a presentation in the BNS, it was the Swiss National Bank, the SNB, the BIS presentation in 2018, where Ripple gave a presentation on how they could change the system and offer a solution to the problem that that the old guard were facing. So the old institutions were facing a big problem, which was the speed in which the Facebooks and these other huge Goliaths of technology bases were about to release their own stable coins. So they had to act. The Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, they had to make a move. And so they needed a private company. Anyway, Ripple did a presentation in 2018. I think was it 2018? Might be 2019, May. And this scene here represents the presentation that the bear's giving you. And it's all to do with, the 589. There's again, like I said, there's many meanings to 589. 589 also equals 22, which equals death and rebirth and beginnings. And the Ouroboros is used quite heavily in this in this presentation, in this lesson, in this whiteboard lesson, because Swift was using a dollar, and it was again like the Ouroboros, the kind of the never-ending cycle, perpetual cycle of death and rebirth to serve their own needs. But 58922 is the new beginnings. There's a change. Remember, the 22 equals the major arcana, it equals the fool, equals the jester, equals growth and rebirth. It's linked to the planet of Uranus, which is the planet of revolution. That's happening in Taurus, which is all to do with the money sphere. So you can see how these all kind of link together. But the 589 started here, and it was then brought into the Christmas scene with Swift settling in dollars, with liquidity on one side, Nostro, Cobalt, which is, again, as I'm trying to explain, a kind of amendment upgrade software that was postponed on the XRPL that would give incredible smart contract capabilities, I believe. I'm not too swatted up on Cobalt, you'll have to excuse me on that. But I started to kind of put a few of these things together, and how we join this up, and how does Ripple, and what does Ripple have to do with Swift? Well, Ripple had created two products. One, which was it's kind of RippleNet, okay? And that was to take on Swift's messaging system. RippleNet is Ripple's major software platform on the XRPL that connects all these banks together so they can communicate in this stack in-house on the XRPL, okay? And their other product, ODL, is a liquidity provision provided on demand that would replace the old legacy functions that provided liquidity to Swift, which were, as we've discussed, the JP Morgans, the Citis, the HSBCs, and the Chases. Those guys provide, I think it's 4 to 6 trillion a day in liquidity provisions, while that money is zipping and zapping across the planet. So this is why Ripple has faced so much headwinds, because the atrium of the world's financial center, so where all the money comes and goes through, has been Swift, and it's been locked in dollars, okay? And to change out the world's financial engine in flight, you had to take on the king and remove this kind of legacy conduit that was compromised, and you had to replace it with a new one. And this is where things are going. This is why you got so much resistance, so much headwinds, because the infrastructure needed to be changed out. So we know this comes from the Christmas scene. We know we've got the red, the blue, the green, and the purple, the yellow and the purple, and COMEX, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. So back in the day, Bearable Guy posted a lot of memes about Swift, and this guy here, I've cut the actual screen capture off, but this guy was replacing, it was supposed to represent Swift, and it says work with Ripple and use XRP, or work with R3 and use XRP, and it showed that Swift was sweating. And we're gonna have a little bit of a look at some videos that we've got to do with Swift and the importance of it. But first of all, let's actually quickly have a look at Lodestar 1. In this, I always try and point you guys to the Lodestar letters. There's so much gems that you can correspond these writings back to BG's cryptographic cartoons. And one of the most important things was, when I was hearing the brandishing around of, 589's the money. It's fucking well not. Excuse my French. It's to do with, if you want, like I said before, if you want it to be the money, let it be the money. But the idea of it being the money is so limited. Let's zoom out. He says here, 589, what a beautiful number. The one number which has been spoken about since it first debuted like a cobalt blue shooting star, flying at speed of light. Where have we heard the word cobalt? Go back to the Christmas scene in the lecture. Has brought much about a great discussion inside and outside XRP community. That number has so many meanings, he's telling you, and reasons behind it. That number, that one breadcrumb, has led to so many discoveries about what XRP is now and what it can become. So he's telling you what it can become. 589, it's to do with Swift. 589 is a code for what was getting ready to happen at the end of the year. They're getting ready to replace Swift. They were taking on the old guard, and Ripple's job was to replace out the old financial engine. I call it the heart, the atrium. Every new financial system, it has to have this, this functioning, proper, uncorrupted atrium inside it. And the cross-border payments flows of the planet were going through Swift, so you had to swap it out mid-flight. I kind of put it to analogy to people that during the pandemic, this is when I believe most of it was done, you had a plane flying at 40,000 feet, which is, symbolises the monetary system running on the planet, and they had to switch out an engine whilst it was cruising at altitude. So the swapping out of this financial engine is no easy task. Quite clever. So he said that the number, that one breadcrumb has led to so many discoveries of XRP, what it is now and what it can become. 589 is a code for what was getting ready to happen at the end of the year. 589 is the COMEX rule. 589 is the Nostro and Vostro accounts unleashed. 589 is hope and knowledge. Right, so he's telling you the COMEX rule, the Nostro and Vostro, hope and knowledge. 589 is what was getting ready to occur. Right, so we can go back to this. He's referring to Cobalt, Nostro, COMEX, and Swift. 589, Swift. And he was trying to tell you what Ripple's plans were. He's put the castle scene beneath this to tell you that breaking into the king's castle was to do with Swift. It probably had a lot to do with the Federal Reserve. It had a lot to do with the king's kingdom financially, as I've mentioned in the castle riddle. It's to do with Swift. Okay? The control centre of the world's financial centre was running through Swift, and the oligarchy had control of this. Okay? And this was done. Tick. He's giving a lecture. Death and Rebirth, 22. 589. Genius. Super genius. Alright. So, I just put it here for you now. What country is Swift based in, and where's their flag? And so you just, people... where was this now? So, Swift isn't only, it's based in Belgium, basically. That was my question. It's a company based in Belgium, and I'll tell you why it's important. Okay. Before we do that though, let's have a look. What is Belgium's flag? Right. Okay. So in this castle scene in the future, look at the snake. Yeah. In the dollar sign, look at the colours. Belgium. What is it? I think it's Swift. He's now got control of the snake that was Swift. Right. We can close that one out. Right. So, now that we know that, we can close those. Right. So, how much money does Swift settle a day? And this is why it's so important for me to give you an indication of this. 5 trillion a day. Get your heads around that. 5 trillion a day Swift settles. And then I asked, how much money is locked up in Nostro Vostros? $27 trillion. Okay, what is a Nostro and Vostro account? We'll go into that a little bit later on, but the point is, it's a enormous group of siloed currencies that are idle. They sit in accounts in exotic currencies, waiting to be used for a cross-border transaction between A and B. Nostrum, Vostro is Latin for ours and yours. So they're just corresponding pools of money that sit in case they need to be swapped in different currencies. And the idea of ODL replacing the Nostro accounts is super important in understanding this whole bigger picture that Ripple is doing. And my hopes in this is to go right to the end of this video, and is to bring you into what I would understand as the level playing field and what it actually means. Okay, doesn't happen instantaneously. In the castle, he showed you. It's very interesting. See the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How did I know? How did I have a feeling? Or I don't know. How do I have a feeling that these things were going to take a long part of time? 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. 6 years. I think this will carry on to 2030. By 2026, you'll have the full migration into Swift, and then we begin in the full CDBC suites, which will carry on to the 2030s. Okay? And what is the level playing field? It's 180 currencies, plus gold and silver, as told by Bob Way. CDBCs, but not in the Orwellian fashion that you're all envisaging. Okay? All plugged into the XRPL, all being settled on Ledger, with the atrium, the heart of the correspondent old Swift system, replaced by Ripple, with RippleNet and ODL. Now, if you look at Marvin Gaye's old picture, you have the Swift logo in the middle of the deep state window. Swift was tied into the bad guys, shackled demands with debts. You know, this is huge. It's understanding where this has come from. They had to swap out this part here. Okay, that's why BG says, you know, that Ripple is the antithesis of this. It's, you know, a chance for hope and dreams for people. You know, a level playing field means everybody gets to play on the same level without being kind of ripped off and done over. Bob Way, got a little tweet up from Bob here. He replied to Darren Moore and said, I like that diagram, but you have to imagine the circle with 180 fiat currencies plus gold and silver and some crypto assets. Only then you realise the magnitude of how many direct market combinations there are in the top diagram. Okay, Bob Way was telling you, look, 180 fiat currencies plus gold, silver and crypto assets on the ledger, on the XRPL. He was referring, Darren had said, I believe I can see the future with XRP and, you know, I think there's 7 different G7 currencies. And Bob was like, no. That ain't where it's stopping. We're going 180 currencies plus fiat gold, gold, silver and the other assets. Okay, now you can start to understand the level playing field. This is what the level playing field is. It's everything, all the money. Do you remember Ethan Beard? All the money. Everything on. You can't have a fractionalized system where you have 100 CDBCs on one chain, I don't think in the future. Maybe you can, and then 50 on another. They're going to bring them all on. They're going to bring them all on chain. That's where I think this is going. And you have to have the correspondence money transmission center replaced at the heart of this, which is RippleNet and the ODLs. So, Brad Garlinghouse, listen to this, you know.
Getting that, because Swift is really just messaging. When you send a Swift transfer, it's not liquidity. You're actually sending bank messages to banks that have liquidity. So to some degree, Citibank and HSBC, really the top 2, JPM, those are the top 3 liquidity banks. And when you're sending Swift messages, you're sending messages to banks to release liquidity and making sure the debits and credits match. So to some degree, really boil it down, Ripple's competing with the liquidity of Citi and the messaging of Swift, but in one, because we're both messaging and liquidity. And
just pause for that minute. Ripple is replacing Swift plus JP plus Citi plus HSBC. What did he just say to you? Liquidity. He's replacing with ODL the liquidity. He's competing with Swift and liquidity. So they're replacing them both. Super important. Super important.
The day, you know, again, as I described, you know, Swift was developed 50 plus years ago. It architecturally hasn't really changed. It does remain slow. It remains, you know, days. It does remain, relatively speaking, expensive. And actually, it's quite error prone. And part of that is just...
Anyway, so you can see now, Ripple's plans was to replace Swift plus the liquidity providers. Why is there such resistance? JPM, Citi, HSBC, they're Goliaths. Give that a like. Right, next piece. This was good.
I think what we're doing executing on a day-by-day basis is in fact taking over Swift. In that, you know, we've now signed up, you know, well over 100 banks. Some of the largest Swift-enabled banks in the world are now using Ripple's technology. I mean, just last week we saw a remittance company who's using Ripple's technology.
Over 100 of the biggest financial institutions, and they are taking over Swift. This is where he came out in 2018 and said this, and the world was like, "You what? What did you say?" He gave away his cards there, okay, and that is, you know, in the Christmas scene where he throws down the gauntlet to the king. That's what it's about, right? So what is the RippleNet home? Well, this was I want to break down a little bit. You know, what is the RippleNet component? You know, it's Ripple's main software suite. It's on the XRPL, and this was Swell 2019 by Mr. B. So credit to him. And it's just an interesting snapshot for you to see how RippleNet works and how it looks. And this is the home, and this is the part that's replacing Swift.
Welcome to the future of RippleNet Home. Imagine an entirely new experience where you can get insights about your company's payment flows and performance in real time. intelligent suggestions for how you can grow your market share and increase your competitive advantage in different parts of the globe. As you explore and interact with the network, growth opportunities for your company get surfaced. To improve your capabilities in an existing corridor or expand into a new one. Evaluate the size and potential of a market and immediately find a partner that best fits your business goals. Get to know your potential partner, their capabilities, and perform the necessary due diligence, all within RippleNet Home. Then send a request to get connected instantly. Receive new opportunities to connect with RippleNet members that can offer you low rates and instant settlement with on-demand liquidity. Manage and respond to all of your inbound requests in one central place or wherever you are. And watch as your network and your reach continue to grow. Track all of your payments on RippleNet with smart automation that reduces errors. And analyze your transaction history to understand how you can fully optimize global payments at your company. This is just a glimpse of what's in store for RippleNet Home. What else can you help us imagine?
Right, that was just a snapshot of RippleNet software, and that was back in the day when the influencers in the XRP community were allowed to go to these swell conferences, and I'm not sure that's still the case, but see how smart it is. It's a software suite that everybody can kind of join into. These institutions, not me and you obviously, financial institutions that they can just plug was the word I was looking, plug into and play. So that's super cool. And there was a small video here on, the liquidity part. So we looked at the RippleNet part. This is the kind of liquidity provision. I'm not sure this covers it entirely, but again from Bank XRP, amazing contributor in the XRP community.
Demand and reduce the amount of Nostros required to make global payments. For network users, again, these are corporates, SMEs, small banks, and other payment providers, RippleNet provides a standardized API.
Did you catch that? To reduce the need for Nostro and Vostro. So we talked before about the liquidity needs and how Ripple is taking on the liquidity provisions, which is run by Citi, HSBC, JP Morgan, and others. But also, it means that the Nostro and Vostro accounts will also have to change underneath that. It's all part of the same thing. The liquidity in the Nostro and Vostro, I believe, it's they are part and parcel of that same equation. Nostro and Vostro and liquidity is like one stack. Okay, because those 3 major banks, all have to hold large amounts of Nostro and Vostro in order to facilitate that liquidity. Right. Anyway, moving on to DAI's channel. DAI back in the day did an amazing video that blew my mind. So massive credit to him. And this is the video. And Greg Kidd was talking about. I want to play 2 parts of this. I want you to understand. And DAI asked some really boss questions to this chap. And Greg Kidd, he is a billionaire. He was one of the first 12 employees, I believe, at Ripple, and he came out of retirement to work at Ripple because he was so blown away by this unicorn, and he has some cool things to say.
I'm assuming you know Miguel Valles, who's the ex-head of XRP Markets. My understanding is that he recently left Ripple. Yep. Now, the most interesting thing that he has ever said, and I love some of the words that come out of the people at Ripple, because that is what has kept me so fascinated by this company for so long. He said that Ripple had a simple goal of making XRP the world's reserve digital currency. So the question I have is, do you think that Ripple will achieve this goal?
Well, see, my hopes are tied up with his vision, but that's why I joined Ripple. I mean, when I joined Ripple, it looked like Bitcoin with 2 extra columns: currency and who.
What happens when fungus thrives
Jesus.
in toenails and toenails get discolored?
Lovely.
You have a mutated super
Bloody hell. Fungus videos.
Currency and who issued that currency. And so I want to live in the Star Trek world. And in the Star Trek world, it doesn't matter whether you're a Klingon, a Romulan, Federation, it could all buy dilithium crystals. But you can't do that if your form of value is all in a silo. And so Ripple was the first that basically had a, like, if you will, an intergalactic currency, something that could go everywhere. The great thing that...
An intergalactic currency. Wow. There was another one as well. I think it was around here.
Speculation, but I think that everybody would agree that the whole concept of XRP is that as there's more liquidity in the system, that there's a price rise along with it. What do you think makes the XRP price rise? When you take speculation out of it, what do you think is going to make that XRP price rise?
Well, there's a limited amount of XRP in the world. I mean, 100 billion sounds like a big number. But look, what is XRP competing with? Right now in the correspondent banking system, banks have to deposit money, Nostro, Vostro, all around the world. So there's pots of liquidity so that things can move from one silo to another. The way that all works is with pre-funded liquidity. And all that pre-funded liquidity happens in all the different fiat currencies of the world. So if you really want to be able to service money all around and move it, you've got to have all these pre-funded pots and all these different currencies. But if you could agree on one currency and one that you could replenish, not just 9 to 5, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you need less liquidity, because you can see that when you're getting low, you can restock. And how long does it take to restock? 3 seconds. How much does it cost to restock? Less than a penny. And so the advantage of XRP is it's a much more efficient method of moving liquidity around. It would be like having an engine that ran on a teacup of oil rather than a gallon of oil. Everything still needs liquidity. Pre-funding is good, but when you can top up your pre-funding in 3 seconds, you need a lot less oil in the engine.
Wow. So he dropped a bomb then. By the way, Greg Kidd holds options for 1 billion XRP. He's no dummy. He was one of the earliest investors in Twitter. He is a massive VC investor, and he knows his stuff. So he's telling you that Ripple's goal was to replace the Nostro and Vostro and the liquidity. Okay, we went back and we looked earlier on at the size of those markets. Let's just wrap our heads around that. Swift is currently settling 5 trillion a day. Let's call it 5. The Nostro and Vostro accounts equal 27 trillion a day. The Bank of England reconciles that, you think it's the total cross-border remittance flows by 2027 are going to be 250 trillion. Can we reconcile that? 250 trillion. And Ripple is moving in place to replace the liquidity and the Swift and the Nostro and Vostros. Yeah, that makes me believe that the 589 is very doable. But no more wild speculation on here. So that's DAI. This is the Swift company we referred to earlier on, if you're not familiar with it. And this is Nostro and Vostro accounts. They're just one to the other, A to B. I had brought up something on that as well. And also, massive credit to this guy here, Pro Rippler. He did a brilliant video. I used some of the screen captures because he had high-res images. He did a really good Christmas riddle explanation. We've got different opinions on some things, but he was really good. This was 1 year ago. Fair play, that was really, really good. Again, we've got differing opinions on our interpretations of it, but most of it was pretty amazing. Anyway, he had some great screenshots that I used there, so I wanted to give him a shout out, and I thank you for that. Right. So we've covered the 589 thumbnail. We've also, let's see some of the other references that BG has referenced Swift in here. Okay, and I want to make sure that you understand that Swift was always the plan. Okay, so we had, I think this is Lodestar 1. Ripple and XRP is crossing the Rubicon, and Swift knows its time has come. Okay, and so this one here, where was Swift Solutions at the presentation at the BIS? This background image here was that presentation at the BIS, which is also, did I have a picture of it? I thought I might have. No, it wasn't that one. Oh, it's here. So, do you remember this image? The Swiss National Bank, BNS, it's Brad Garlinghouse giving a presentation. Well, this is in reference to this lesson here that you can see in the background. So, we have end of year 2013 plans have been in place for years. As the process progressed for Ripple, the writing that has been on the wall for Swift for so long has finally bore fruit when Brad Garlinghouse threw it down and said bluntly, as he is wont to do, well, I think that we're doing and executing on a daily basis, in fact, taking over Swift. Huge thing. Huge thing. We've covered the memes. And I've put here Swift, you know. This equals the Nostro, the Cobalt, the COMEX, and the liquidity. You need all these four in place. Because remember Bob Way talked about, you know, a level playing field. Gold-backed currencies, the further down the line. Yeah? So I've got loads more to show you, but I just don't know how much more you all want to do. So 589 was reference in Lodestar 1. 589 was Nostro, 589 was liquidity, 589 was COMEX, 589 was Cobalt. These are tweets that I've put out previously. And I put this as kind of part one of the Christmas scene, the lesson, 589. What a beautiful number. 589 is Cobalt, 589 is liquidity, 589 is COMEX, 589 is Nostro. 589 is Ripple, Sangreal, 589 is Cobalt, Nostro, COMEX, liquidity, all in one. 589 is the code for Swift, my friends. Lodestar 2. When Swift Solutions, where was Swift Solutions at the presentation of the BIS? Oh, presentation, you say, BG. Okay, it's okay, Brad had this covered, and I refer to Brad in that presentation. Nostro, Cobalt, COMEX, liquidity. Again, same thing. Swift equals Ripple net, liquidity equals ODL, Swift equals Ripple. And I broke the Christmas scene down for the future of all this into three parts. The Swift, the 589 lesson, the library case, and the SEC crypto storm. Swift, regs, SEC. There's a bit more to it than that, but it was for simplicity, I will break the Christmas riddle down into probably three parts as we go. And I put this in a previous tweet. It was all about Swift, my friends. Swift was the former cross-border engine of the financial world. It was run by the deep state. They had to swap out the old FI engine, replace it with a new one. Swift equals Ripple, dark to light. I told you this was a long game, 23 to 26, possibly to 2030. They're rolling it out in three phases. Castle walls are in years, 1, 2, 3, 21, 22 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 24, 25 to 26. The first two below, Nostro and Cobalt. That's something I want to come back to. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so while that's there now, see the 1, 2, and 3? Well, the unboxing of the liquidity for Nostro and Vostro is under 1, 2, and 3. Could be something, could be nothing. And then 4, 5, 6 is when maybe the liquidity provisions get taken over. But equally, I was showing you that there is Nostro and Cobalt under 1, 2, 3. And COMEX and liquidity at 4, 5, 6. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. 6-year plan, maybe. Now we don't need to cover that just yet. COMEX rule 589, a little about it. Metals a new rule 2014 seems to be a market anti-shock system. Markets can halt for 2 minutes, or trading can be cancelled and begin again the next day. Manipulation of markets at its best, in my opinion. JP Morgan probably most likely at the helm. So there's the COMEX rule 589, which is to kind of probably rig the current metals markets. I haven't looked too much into that, so you guys can jump into that if you want. And that was just, you know, me referencing again 589 to Swift. BG, Brad Garlinghouse, BG, to get the connotation. Well, I think that's what we're doing on an executing daily basis, in fact, taking over Swift. So I'm bringing you all these tweets that I've put up in the past. So you've seen that already. I was just going through them quickly. The BG's lecture is a big one. Cobalt, Nostro, COMEX, liquidity. This is Ripple's game plan. Currently trying to learn about Cobalt. That was back in the day. Again, 589, the grand agenda, Lodestar 1. Lodestar 1 talks about this lecture. Read it carefully. Cobalt, Nostro, COMEX, liquidity. Nostro is 25 trillion base case. These things takes time. COMEX, we talked about that a minute ago. Nostro, what is Nostro? It's 25 trillion of idle capital locked up in CB payments, cross borders. Idle, keyword equals idle. Nostro is about to get unboxed. Think what Greg Kidd just said. Unboxed equals freeing the stuck capital. And why do I reference unboxed? We'll look at the Christmas scene and show you that in a second. It's unboxing of freeing capital. How is this done? ODL, on-demand liquidity. Unboxed. Look at the box, the green box here. Look at the box with the green. This says cloud. I think it's maybe AWS. So you see that box that plays that Christmas box underneath the tree. It plays an important role in the future. This is going to be a long one. I'm just trying to wrap this up now, guys. What else have we got? Swift, liquidity 200 trillion, Nostro 25 trillion, Cobalt. But what about Cobalt ripples? Cobalt was a very cool XRPL upgrade that went dark a while ago. Cobalt is an atomic broadcast algorithm for the XRPL. I'm guessing it's an upgrade to the XRPL for the Swift change or paper below. It's gone dormant. We don't know what's going on with Cobalt, and that's speculation on my behalf. We don't know if it's to do with the Swift upgrade, and we don't know if things have changed. Maybe there's another significant upgrade that will take Cobalt's place. And we talked about gold earlier on, and I've heard plenty of people in the XRP community talk about gold and how it's going to XRP is going to be backed by gold. It's not going to be backed by gold. If you understand what XRP's job is, it's a bridge asset. It provides liquidity to other currencies. Gold is back, and it's back with its new friend, the standard economy. So, look, behind the curtain, what's going on? So XRP will provide liquidity to these currencies. Okay, they will be able to transmit across the network as a liquidity provider. Gold based is the word. Gold based, and the new systems probably will be gold backed. This is by Marvin Gaye back in the day. And again, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tick 2026. Swift we've already seen. And what else? Nostro, we've been over that a few times. Swift equals messaging, liquidity equals top 3 banks, Citi, HSBC, JPM. Ripple is competing with the messaging of Swift and the liquidity of the 1, 2, 3. RippleNet equals messaging plus liquidity. Where do the colours come from? We've been over that. We've covered a lot of ground. Alright, and so this is really interesting. You know, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, look at the timelines. You know, you had the onboarding onto the new Swift systems, bank implementations timeline from 2022 onwards. This was the kind of I think it's the ISO standards have a lot to do with this as well. There's going to be a migration period, you know, that Swift has to go through. I think it went live as of March of this year, 2023, after some significant delays. But Swift is now had to upgrade to these new ISO standards. Yeah, I expect the next 3 years for the volume to, or the transactional flows in these new messaging standards to increase. I don't know too much about that. And then we have the same thumbnails before, just making sure I've been through all these with you. Yeah, there's the meme. And yeah, the back to the castle, to the Christmas scene, beg your pardon. So yeah, this is where it all came from. This picture here, and it's in regards to the 589 that we've talked about. And the end place was the level playing field that I wanted to take you to, and that was with Bob Way's 180 plus currencies on a ledger, with gold and silver transacting real-time instant settlement across the planet, T+0, and that is the kind of the 589 and its kind of grand picture, guys. We will cover the Christmas scene and go on to that, but I needed to cover this as a prelude before. It's a big lesson, but it's super important because it brings into the fold what is going on. I hope this has covered it for you. I know it's been a long one. Thanks for sticking with me. If you watched it to the end, you've done really well. Got 45 minutes in. Oops. I hope it's provided value. Please give it a like, share and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you all in the next video.